Hi, this is Chris with Sights on Target Training. I'm going to show you today on how to cut the notch of your fireboard for using a bow drill to start a fire. As you can see, this is what it looks like after it's finished. This hole is gone. I've already used it up. I can't use it anymore. So what I've done is I've created two more burn-ins. And the way you do that is you just put the spindle in like you were going to start a fire. Take your knife and just make a little bit of a mark, and that gives it some place to hold on to. This is the way I like to do it. Is I just rotate the board around and then just give myself a little indentation so that I have something to put my spindle in. I've already done that. So what you want to do next is cut your notch. It varies from person to person how they cut it. I like to cut it as 1/8 of a piece of pie. So about there, and you want it to go almost not all the way through your hole where your spindle is, but a good distance, and then right about there. And that's pretty much where I want my my notch to be. Actually, I'll probably move that out a little bit. Probably right there. This is my Becker BK7. It's my survival knife. This is what I do most of my stuff with. But for cutting notches, I find it's a lot easier to start all your cuts out with your survival knife. Make your marks where I'm gonna go here and there. So now I kind of have an idea where I'm going to be cutting. I like to keep a saw blade in my survival kit. For this I just use my Gerber multi-tool, but you can also carry a Sawzall blade that's been taped to use as a saw. And that's what I'm really starting to recommend now, because this is kind of heavy and this takes care of all my cutting needs. A Sawzall blade is very light and it's easy to use. So that's what I've really been starting to recommend to carry in a survival kit. But for this purpose, I'm going to use my Gerber knife. So what you do is you're going to start your cuts, and you're going to saw through. And what that does is your notch is really going to give you. That's where you're going to be collecting your coals. Your coals are going to build up in here, but when you do your notch, you want to come right to the center of the hole, like this, and you want to be careful so you don't cut your fingers naturally, but like that. You're going to come right to the center of the hole. I like to start it with that and then work on it with my survival knife. So now I'll start cutting it out, because once you really get your saw blade in there, you can carve it like this. It does take some time and some work, but I find that's probably the easiest way to do it. If you can cut it before you go out in the wilderness, that's probably your best bet. But in the wilderness, this is how you want to do it. And like I said, you want your notch to come right to the center of the hole. Let's see if we can. And then you can also use other tools. Like I said, I find it easier to use a survival knife and actually cut it out beforehand. But you can also use wedges and any type of knife you can have. I personally do something like this. Cutting your notch is like the most important part of your bow drill. Without a proper notch, you're not going to be able to get your fire going. So take your time cutting it out. just a little at a time. But overall, what you'll end up with is a notch that looks similar to this. As you can see, we're almost done with our notch here. We gotta clean it up a little bit, but overall this is pretty much what you want. As you can see, we've completed our notch in our fireboard, and now it resembles a slice of pie. You can still probably clean it up as you're going, but overall this is what you want. As you can see, it's about 1/8 of a slice of pie, and it goes right to the center of your burn-in. And what that's going to allow to do, as you're using your bow drill, it's going to create like a sawdust, and it's going to fill this notch up, and that's what's going to actually ignite your your sawdust, is the heat and the friction from your bow drill. So when you're making your bow drill, you always are going to need a notch, always. But the way you do it is, it's kind of going to be personal preference and the way that you are most comfortable with. I like to cut them. If I know I'm going out for a hike, I prefer to cut them before I go. It's just a lot easier, but it can be done with just hand tools. It takes a lot longer. It's a lot of whittling and carving, but it can be done. For the board, you always want to use something soft. This is white cedar, but overall though, just make sure that when you do cut it, it goes to the center and it's roughly resembles this. So if you have any questions, leave me a comment and I'll be sure to answer you.